Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are just thrilled to have you here and to share with us and our listeners about you and the generous information you're relaying to us with regards to the immigration landscape in Uganda. So thank you and welcome. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you, Lynn, for having this opportunity with us here. It is, of course, a new world where we are now seeing each other on this new awkward, and thank you so much for the opportunity of partnering with us in regards to the immigration services right here, and also the enormous information that usually take.
Yes.
And we're always happy to be of great help, and also letting people know the services that we do offer.
Absolutely. And, with that, I really kind of want to start with just the basics. So tell us who you are, who your company is, and what your specialty practice is. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
All right. I go by the names of Namatovu and Tinah, and I'm an expert assist operations director currently, and I'm more into consultants with immigration and policy making. Our company started as a subsidiary of Equate Uganda that was formed in 2013, and it was formerly a legal entity in 2016. So we have 5 years of experience in relocation and immigration services. And it's the first company in Uganda to specialize in these services.
Really? Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And I'm sure that's been quite a wonderful experience, and you've learned so much as you've made your journey through these services and offering services to those who would like to come and relocate to Uganda. That's really great.
Definitely. It was formed by one of the Dutch founders, Mayon Castellan, who found it very hard to settle down in Uganda when she came in.
Oh, really?
So she thought about a one-stop center where all expatriates can come, make inquiries, make it easy for someone who is not even yet here to get the services, to get the knowledge and the information that comes along with this.
Yes.
And it has been quite an adventure for us also.
I can
imagine. To hear the enormous questions and information that we get and the inquiries, and we have been trying to address them according to the government policies here.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Tina, we're finding ourselves in quite an uncharted territory right now in terms of what the world is currently undergoing with this pandemic. And so I really think it's important, especially for how things are changing in companies right now, how they're restructuring, within the parameters of relocation and where they want to be sending their assignees and how they're sending assignees these days. So would you tell us to just sort of paint a picture of the current immigration landscape, as a response to COVID-19?
Of course, the epidemic took us by storm. We are very unaware. We are running our business as usual in March until we had a presidential address that put everything on hold.
Yeah.
With that, it meant that the airport was officially closed. The borders were closed. We went into a lockdown as a country, and we have been having embassies that have been able to do repatriation for their people back home. And also we have been having immigration on this other side, trying to be lenient on the visas and the extensions that have been happening. But during the lockdown period, everything froze as government offices closed and immigration was not operational.
And
yes.
How are things now? Are you still on a very strict lockdown?
No.
International borders closed? What's the current picture?
Yesterday, actually, we had the presidential address, and of course, the country is trying to embrace what the situation is. Right. With the extension, and most of the business entities within the country are now operating. And this means that businesses can now open and run, and they have been doing that for a while now. The only strategy the government has not yet found a solution to is the opening of the airport and the borders.
Yes.
I believe they are trying to find a minimal structure on how to deal with the incoming influx, so that they can open the borders more, and the people who are still stuck outside the country can
Yes.
come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think that's a struggle for a lot of jurisdictions currently is trying to balance, businesses being able to resume economic activity within their jurisdictions, as well as to continue to have the travel in and out so that people can come in and skilled migrants can come in and continue to do their work, or the vice versa, people are able to leave, even though those are now just sort of under essential circumstances. But what about your immigration authorities? Is everything in full operation? Are you processing applications? Tell me a little bit about that.
Before the lockdown, immigration had an online system where we could put all the applications online. But when we came into the lockdown situation, since the immigration was closed, you could submit the application online, but there was no feedback or activity on that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes. Then they came back. They opened like 2 weeks back, and they are now operational, and they are trying to get back to the backlog that has been into the system.
Yes.
So we are yet to get more feedback from them. Right now, they are fully operational, and they are issuing out permits accordingly, and everything is smooth and running.
Okay.
Back to normal.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But there is the backlog, like you said, from the time, probably from the time of the lockdown back in March, that they're now sort of trying to play catch up. I would imagine.
Yes.
But
yes,
being in full
definitely
operation,
we have applications that have not been approved, or we have feedback on since March up to now. So we are just trying to wait on them so that they can get us feedback on these applications. So I believe the backlog is the reason why they need to clear it before the whole operation can go into the normal.
Right. And it's really great to hear that your immigration processing and application submission processes is online. I mean, honestly, you said that prior to your lockdown, that's really kind of how you've been operating and being able to, submit applications on your client's behalf. So you kind of are ahead of the curve. There's a lot of jurisdictions that had to physically submit their applications and had to be in person, and applicants had to be in person, or, are you still able to fulfill requirements, for example, like biometrics, or are they waiving those types of requirements? How is that working that you not able to do online currently?
Currently, we are able to have all the applications done online, and that is the only system that they have. And when it comes to the permit issuance, when it has been already approved, we have to contact the client to go for biometrics. And right now, they are handling a restricted number of people per day. So you put in your application for also biometrics so that they can schedule you accordingly. And with that schedule, it gives them, of course, as a maintenance fee, and also a prior measure for the COVID-19 SOP of social distancing, and also making sure that the places are not crowded when people go there for biometrics.
I see. Okay, so they just have adjusted everything just to be in compliance with a lot of the health safety codes, I'm sure, that you have in your jurisdictions, as well as to assure everyone's safety when they are embarking on those types of services to complete the application process. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about expats that are stuck within Uganda right now. You mentioned briefly earlier about how, there's been some waiving of requirements, or that the government at least has been, generous in waiving maybe, or being a little lenient on some of the requirements. To what extent is that happening? How lenient are they with those that are stuck in and need to have visa extensions, and so on?
Currently, what is happening is there are various visas that people, of course, had applied for, but what is currently happening is all tourist visas, ordinary have are actually having an ongoing extension by immigration at no fees at
Oh,
all. Yes, and other visas such as work permits, special passes, someone can apply for renewal or an extension, but that has to be paid. But the ordinary visas are not supposed to be paid for. And I believe this is a great move by the government so that in this trying period, at least tourists that were here are catered for.
yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's really no choice in the matter that people find themselves stuck wherever they were at the time of lockdowns.
Yeah, and they said they are going to continue having free visa extensions until the borders and the airports are opened.
Really?
So this is, yes.
That's really great
So
news.
anybody can just walk into immigration with their visa and they get an extension free of charge to just
Wow.
have a legal stay.
That's great. But again, that doesn't apply to other visas, the special passes and so on that needs to be paid for those that are.
Yes, someone who is on a dependent pass, special pass, work permits, these have to have the normal application requirements.
Yes.
And they have to apply the renewal through the system.
I see, I see.
Yes.
What about those, has your government made any further concessions just in terms of those that were outside of Uganda at the time of the lockdown and had planned on coming for an assignment and, they were shut down, but they had their visas approved? And what happens to those guys and gals that are now sitting outside in their home country and are not able to come in? Are those visas still valid, or do they have to start over once the international borders are open again?
What is happening is once the visa is approved, the visa later takes a year to expire.
Okay.
So yes, so it is valid until a year, and I believe this lockdown won't take a year for the airports to be open. So anybody that has their approval,
that
is true. Fingers crossed. True, we have applicants that have had their visas, of course, already approved, and they are not able to come into the country because of the lockdown. Yes. And also because they can't access the borders or the airport. So we are guessing that they can use the repatriation flights, which are ongoing by the government.
Okay.
And this can be utilized. However, we had a scenario in South Africa where one of the clients couldn't get on board. Yes. Just because the flights were overbooked, and yes. They're actually hiking the prices for the people with approved visas, because the flights are supposed to be only for Ugandans, apparently. Yeah, but in other countries, it has been positive as people have been able to get on the repatriation flights and, of course, come down here and go through the quarantine days. Yes. And cleared afterwards.
And then they're cleared after that. On that note, yes. Have there been any additional medical screenings that have been implemented as part of the immigration process? I'm sure that there always has been sort of a medical screening of some sort for people that are coming in, especially on long-term work visas or anything of the sort. But have there been anything additional that have been implemented? Do you see anything additional happening in the future with regards to things like pandemics through the immigration application process?
Immigration hasn't actually declared any kind of maybe a health clearance certificate that someone should have, as long as the Ministry of Health, someone goes through the quarantine process and they are cleared. Yes. And they are allowed to come into the country and, of course, settle down. Immigration has not given us other guidelines or other requirements in regards to this. Hopefully, they are discussing it and they haven't maybe disclosed. So we are kept in the blue for now. Yes. So let us see what comes out. You never know with the changing cycle.
Yes.
You can never know
like
what
the
to expect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really curious to know, we talk a lot about the foreign expats, but I'm curious to know, are Ugandan citizens allowed to leave if they have valid work visas in other countries? Or permanent
No,
residents?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
There is
okay.
no one leaving Uganda.
Yes,
We
no.
have a we have a lot of people stuck here.
Everybody's stuck.
Everybody is stuck here. And
Wow.
the president made it so clear yesterday that we are putting everything
On
at
hold.
risk if we open the borders.
Right.
So he says life first before the economy and before anybody. So
Yeah.
no one is leaving apparently.
And did your president give any indication yesterday about, how things are looking and projecting opening of borders, continuous business activities, and so on, and about, are you currently on a curfew? Are people pretty still restricted in the permission to move around domestically, I mean?
Of course, there are tight restrictions which have to be observed. This includes wearing of the mask, which is compulsory to all
Yes,
public places,
yes,
and putting on the face masks and social distancing. The curfew time has been a little bit adjusted from 7 to 9. But I believe the president still has a more comprehensive view of what will happen if he opens up the borders. So I believe the government is still trying to make sure that they can cater for the masses once the borders are open.
open, I
And
see.
yeah, and
Yeah,
try to get a policy that can handle that.
yes.
And I believe that when that happens and it's being tested, all will be well and the borders and the airports will be open soon.
Will be open soon.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
I think
also yesterday he mentioned that he's also looking at the Western people trying to have this massive, of course, people who are having a lot of numbers, which are
yes,
increasing by every day.
yes.
So he's a little bit skeptical about opening up the airport and the borders for this. So he's looking at the situation being able to stabilize the other side so
Yes,
that this side, it can be easier.
which makes total sense. I think we're at a point now where jurisdictions, as much as they want to open up borders, and they're going to have to really think about the fact that where are people actually coming from? Are they going to have to transition and only allow, people from sort of the low risk countries, the ones where the numbers are, close to zero, and if there's a matter of exchange that can happen with the, people leaving and then coming into the country. And I think in all jurisdictions, people are weary, and rightfully so, that, accepting people to come in who come from countries that just have numbers that are just astronomical at this point, and can be quite a danger to local citizens of that particular country. So I think your president seems to be quite a wise one. So that's always good. But Tinah, let's talk about just the landscape in general. I mean, I don't know about you, but I try to find myself to be quite optimistic despite what's happening. I see a vision, of things resuming and getting back to maybe not exactly where we were, but maybe in this new normal type of process and way of living. And I think that's going to be reflective in how people move around the world, and have an impact on how people move around the world, and the laws and the policies and procedures that will change to adapt to this new move around the world, whether it be for tourist reasons. But of course, with us, we are primarily focused on sort of the corporate side of people, foreign expats that are coming on assignments with their businesses, starting businesses, or coming through their companies, or whatever the case may be. So give us just a little tidbit about industries in Uganda. Can you tell me what industries are favored when it comes to, being sort of more welcomed, and not much of a stringent, visa or work process? Or are all industries, created equal? Are they all treated equally?
What is really happening out here that the government has put on hold all tourist visas for now. So that industry has been greatly affected by the COVID-19 situation.
Yes.
Because we could no longer bring in people, or even the tourists who are already stuck here can't actually leave or even go around freely to go
Yes.
to all these places. So it has really affected the tourism industry. However, the government is looking more into giving permits to the investors other than employees. So the employee permit is something that is going to be very strict now, and you can only actually get into the country after the approval of your permit as an employee who is going to work for a company in Uganda, which wasn't the previous case. So yes, and also when you look into the requirements of these visas, there is a little bit of lineage when it comes to the investor permit as compared to other permits. So I believe that this is going to affect us maybe in the positive way, because we shall have now more investors who are coming in the country than employees who are just looking, for an employee permit.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So that's going to be just a little bit more strict. And do you think that timelines would change, processing would change in terms of these sort of new stricter requirements, or how do you see things unfolding from a processing perspective?
Right now, as I said earlier, that immigration has been handling the backlog, and what has been really the timeline, someone could have had an approval within the 2 weeks of an application.
Okay, wow.
However, yeah, that is pretty quick when everything is in order.
Yes, of course, when everything is going right. Yes, absolutely.
But currently we are having applications which have now stayed for a month and a half, and we don't know if this is going to be the norm for them, or we are expecting more time, or we really don't know what is happening. But what we are so keen on is we are trying to keep in touch with them so that they can give us an update on what the timelines should be on new applications going forth. Yeah.
And I mean, your immigration authorities, I would imagine, or I should say, I would positively assume, are quite responsive. I mean, they work very well with immigration providers that, stay in constant communication, at least to the best that they can under the circumstances, and are really doing a great job at, through whatever directive or concessions and leniency, just working together to make the process as seamless as possible, again, sort of under the circumstances. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I really agree that immigration has been really positive in this period, and also been responsive to all our information and also our queries on some of these applications, and also they are really very approachable, where they are open to hear you out and also give you the feedback they believe will help you moving on with the process. Yeah.
That's very promising. That sounds very promising. It doesn't happen in all jurisdictions, but I'm happy it happens in Uganda.
It does.
So on that note, what would you recommend? How would you advise clients now that have staff, that have businesses, that want to get the ball rolling? Yes, we're under these, your jurisdiction is under these sort of strict conditions, but just what would you say about them just planning for the future? Again, I'm trying to remain optimistic that we will get back to it at some point. So what would you say to them now? Would you encourage them to keep planning, to keep budgeting, but be more flexible in terms of the secondments, the assignments, how long they are, and so on and so on? What would you say?
What I would really encourage the businesses to do is, of course, to keep focused and also to plan ahead. I believe this is not going to be here forever, and even if it is, we need to manage and find a way on how to deal with it within our own businesses. And therefore, we need to be more innovative in how we are approaching, of course, the diversing dynamics of the challenges that we are facing. So businesses need to get into innovative ventures and also looking into having a domestic kind of workforce that is really that is strong and helpful to them in terms of growth.
Yes.
Because what I'm imagining now is companies that have been fully employing expatriates, now they are going to be really affected by the strict applications which are coming up ahead. So for them to be more, of course, evolving, they would need to have a more domestic, strong workforce that can keep the company moving in this direction.
Yes, yes, well put, well put. I definitely agree with that 100%. So Tinah, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners within the parameters of our topic today? Is there anything you'd like to leave us off with?
Yes, I would. Due to the change of everything here, and due to of course, the immigration status in Uganda, I would encourage new applicants who are planning to apply for visas in Uganda to first get an Interpol letter from their home country, because now Uganda does not allow anybody who doesn't have this criminal record document to apply for their work permit, and also that the immigration is not allowing anybody on a tourist visas or visas. Everybody has to come on a business visa, and then they have to have their approval letter already in place. So they need to work on the process pretty early before even thinking about moving.
Okay. Very good advice, very sound advice. I think a lot of our listeners are going to be quite happy to hear how things are moving along, but also quite happy to hear just in terms of how things are changing and how they need to adjust maybe their own policies and procedures so that they can, resume their own business activity in Uganda if that's where they want to go, or eventually want to find themselves back and running. And of course, from an investment perspective, I'm sure to find that it is quite an attractive location to be. And
it's true.
Yes, and so it's really great to hear. And thank you for giving us, just this brief glimpse into it, and to hear also how you are all doing down there, and that you seem to be trucking along, and we are all trying to do the best we can under the circumstances. So I cannot thank you enough for joining me, and for sharing such pertinent information with me and with our listeners, and we're just really thrilled. So thank you so much, Tinah.
Thank you so much, Lane, for the opportunity, and we look forward for more partnerships.
Yes, definitely. I hope you have a fantastic day.
You too, my dear.
Okay.
Bye-bye.